Hello and welcome to episode 36 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
So we're a bit out of our element this week with a sports game.
Very much so. But it's nice getting back into one. Our first sports one being Hot Shots Golf. But I feel like two different leagues all in their own. Hot Shots Golf being more just laid back and more trying to figure out how you're going to aim and everything. This is just more intense, in your face, fast paced.
Yeah, neither of them are like a true like simulation sports game, which we will get to eventually, but been kind of putting those off because they're not very exciting. It'll be fun for a little bit, but playing 10 Madden games is not going to be a fun week.
No, not at all. Which I think we should mention of we're doing all three Blitz games today, just because it's kind of how we're going to go about all the other sports games. And we talked about in the past how we messed up with Hot Shots. We should have done both of them at the same time.
Yeah, there's 3 NFL Blitz games on the PS1. So NFL Blitz 2000, and then 2001. So we'll start with the first one, then kind of go through how each one is different and how everything changes. But even before that, I just wanted to see like how much do you know about football? Like how much knowledge do you have? Being from Pittsburgh, I think that we both are inherently surrounded by a lot of football growing up. You can't really escape it.
Yeah, do you mean about rules or just what?
In general, like do you like it at all?
Oh, no, not at all. I don't like it. It's one of those things that if I'm over to someone's house and they have it on, sure, I'll watch it a little bit, but I'm not going to sit through the entire game and watch everything. I've been to a game, and it's just like I've been to baseball games. I don't like baseball, but it's like a cool thing to just go to in person. But yeah, it's not a thing for me. How about you?
I've actually never been to a football game. I've been to every other sport at some point in my life, but I think just because Steelers tickets are so expensive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really necessarily love or hate football. So my family growing up and now is very, very big into sports. So whatever sport is on at the time, it is on the TV all day. Like my dad will watch football, he'll watch hockey, he'll watch golf, like literally anything, he'll watch it. So I know a lot about football. I know a lot about sports. Just like I know the way every rule works. I generally know some of the players, and like I played a lot of sports games growing up just because my brothers would get them and like we'd play against each other. So I have some sort of fondness for sports games, even though I don't necessarily watch or care about sports in any way.
And speaking of like players, and we'll get into this more, but hearing some of the names that they mentioned in this was like, oh, I completely forgot this person existed. Just knowing it, like you said, people talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, like Pittsburgh being a football city, it's inescapable. So like you at least know some stuff. And yeah, I loved playing Madden growing up. Like I haven't played it in a long time because I'm not going to pay for it. But like if we're hanging out with someone and they're like, you want to play this sports game? I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, I'm pretty decent at it. And this game is not that far off from a Madden. It just, has all the other elements on top of it to make it its own thing.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. If it was offered to me, I would play it, but I'm not going to go out of my way and buy it.
We also played Blitz the League for our old show.
Yes.
And that was also very fun.
Yeah, because they changed a lot in that one.
Yeah, that one is after they lost the license because EA Sports paid money so that they're the only NFL game around.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was 2005 or 2006. They got the exclusive license, so there's not allowed to be any other football game that has the NFL teams in it. That's why NFL Blitz is like its own thing. Or Blitz the League, I mean. Not NFL Blitz, but you know what I'm saying.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into this. But before we do, I had a little bit of extra time this week, so I started playing the Elden Ring DLC.
Which I've been hearing the hype about this DLC on everything. My friends have been texting me about it and they're excited for it. I've been seeing it on Reddit nonstop, and I never played Elden Ring. I don't know much about Elden Ring, so I don't know why the hype is like there. So I don't know if you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so I am not that far into it because I had extra time, but it's a big game. The hype is that the DLC alone is 30 to 40 hours long.
Jeez.
Now, Elden Ring is already a big game. I checked right before I started. I put 70 hours into it.
Okay.
So you don't know anything about Elden Ring at all?
I just know it's From Software. I know it's a Souls-like game, and it's very long and difficult.
So the thing with Elden Ring is it's actually the easiest Souls game. It's an open world game. It's not like the linear Souls stuff before.
Oh, okay.
What makes it fun is like, let's say you get just destroyed by a boss, you can just go somewhere else, explore, find more stuff, fight other bosses, level up, come back. It has that kind of loop to it. Whereas in the older Souls games, you kind of just had to beat your head against the wall till you finished.
Okay, yeah, I'm watching a streamer right now play Sekiro, and it looks tormenting to play that.
Yeah, I don't like Sekiro. I played it for a few hours and never again.
That's what I always hear. People always say they love Souls games, but they hate Sekiro.
Sekiro is about parrying, which is why I don't like it. The fun for me with a Souls game, whether it's Dark Souls, any of them, is the ability to play the way you want to play. There's always all these different things you can do. So I play them all the same way. I create an insanely heavy tank character, but I use all the rings or whatever they're called in whatever game I'm playing to up my stats so I can still be really fast while wearing this gigantic armor with a giant sword.
Okay.
It's very fun because you're a tank, but you can move really quickly and be nimble still.
That makes sense.
But with Sekiro, with Bloodborne to a lesser extent, like you don't have a choice of how to play the game. You have to play it the way the game wants you to.
Okay.
So like, there was that meme where it's like, get good. That really doesn't apply to most Souls games because you can kind of figure out a way and either grind, try different build, whatever. But with Sekiro, with Bloodborne, you have to just get good at what the game is. You don't have a choice.
Right. And that's what I'm saying too with this guy play it.
So that's why I never gravitated towards those games.
I get that. The one thing I saw with the Elden Ring DLC is that I think the base game got 10 out of 10 reviews for across all these different platforms or reviewers. And I think the DLC also received 10 out of 10 across the board for everything too. So it's just, it's an insane accomplishment from them to actually pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, it's been years since Elden Ring came out, but this is just essentially like another game.
Yeah, another game within the game. And some of the screenshots I've seen, it looks phenomenal. I don't really know what's going on, but it looks cool.
I don't even know what's going on, and I've played it. So, no, I'm only like an hour in, maybe 2 hours. Like, I haven't gone crazy yet, but I will be spending my time playing that instead of watching TV from now on until I beat it. So,
there you go. I have a friend who actually took off of work for like a couple of days just to play it once it dropped and was like actually waiting, like watching the timer, waiting to buy it and play it.
Whenever Elden Ring came out, originally I had a guy at work that I knew take off an entire week to play it. So I've actually never done that, by the way. I've never taken off time to play a game.
Oh, wow. I don't think I have either. My roommate used to be really bad at it. He would take off every time there's a new WoW expansion. He would take off work for like 2 weeks just to play WoW.
Hey, I mean, if you can afford to do that, more power to you.
Yeah.
But like, I could never justify it, especially with the way the band is. Like, I can't just randomly take off whenever I want.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was pretty much what I'm really excited about right now. But yeah, we can just hop right into the game. NFL Blitz is a series of arcade-style football games developed and published by Midway. The first in the series was released on consoles in 1998, with 2 more entries coming in the next 2 subsequent years. So we have NFL Blitz 2000, NFL Blitz 2001. And it kept going for a few more years into the PS2 generation as well, but these are the ones that were on the PS1.
Now, did you play any of these back in the day?
I have played NFL Blitz in arcades before.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which one it was, but I have.
I don't think I've ever seen one in an arcade. Then again, I'm thinking I haven't been in arcades as much as I thought I did. But I used to own the first one, NFL Blitz. But then when we got to NFL Blitz 2001, there's a lot of things that felt familiar. So I want to say maybe I've owned that one too, but it wasn't burnt into my brain as much as the first game.
Weirdly enough, this arcade experience of me playing it was from a year ago.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So whenever we were on tour with Orthodox, we played a venue in Texas and they had like 3 arcade machines like next to the stage. And that was where we loaded in. So like we loaded in and we were waiting to sound check. And me and Lucas were just playing NFL Blitz for like 20 minutes.
That's incredible.
I beat him really bad and then he quit.
Oh, okay. Which I think we may have talked about this on this show or not. Was it with the band where we I could have swore it was in Chicago. And we went to that arcade bar thing.
Yes. I remember it was so packed that we couldn't play any games.
Nope. I was trying to talk to someone about this, and I'm like, I swore it was with a band. I'm not sure if it was, and I couldn't remember who I was with or why I was there.
I have a very vivid memory of playing Castlevania, the arcade version, and no one else was playing it because it was next to the bathroom.
Yeah, I specifically remember we were so excited to go in there, and then we just spent the time walking around waiting to play a game.
I feel like we played Mortal Kombat or something a little bit, but other than that, like we really didn't get to play any of the cool stuff.
Nope. It's just all crowded.
I've actually never been to another like barcade since then. I mean, I love the idea of it, but like I don't really drink, so like I would just go and play games, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a way to access like arcade games that you wouldn't otherwise have, so that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we have that there's a very small arcade in Pittsburgh. I think you've been there.
Yeah.
They have a few arcade machines too, and it's not as crowded. It's very nice to go in there, just kill an hour or two, get to play a lot of games, and then go home. So that was always fun whenever I lived over there.
Yeah, so you want to talk about the game now?
Yeah, I was going to say we should probably get back to NFL Blitz.
So I ended up playing around an hour of each game. I didn't intend to play that much, but I actually had a really good time. Like, I think it's a fun game. So, like, the first day I was playing just the first NFL Blitz and I just kept playing it. I don't know. There's just something about it.
I did the exact same thing, though. I put an hour into each game just because I figured our minimum is usually about 3 hours. We have 3 games. I'll play an hour of each. That should be more than enough to get an understanding of this game. But for you, how much did you accomplish in 1 hour?
So when I first started, I believe I just did like a match, just a random arcade match, just to kind of get into it. And then each time after that, I did the season mode and I would just play until I was kind of like, all right, I'm done for today.
We did the exact same thing then. So for me, an hour got me 1 arcade match, and then I did 3 matches in season mode. And that was about exactly 1 hour, and then I'd move on to the next game.
I would say it was probably around the same for me, maybe 1 or 2 more in one of the games. But for the most part, I just wanted to make sure I played enough that I would be able to notice the differences.
Exactly. And that's why once I had a standard for the first game, moving forward, I made sure to copy that every single time, just so I have an exact replica of what I did.
Whenever you first start NFL Blitz, I mean, the cutscene in the beginning is really something, huh?
Was there a cutscene? I might have skipped by it because I was waiting for something and I didn't see it. What was the cutscene?
All 3 of them have an opening cutscene. It's just literally like clips of football where people are getting hit really hard.
Weird. I wonder if I just was getting my notes set up and ready to go while that was going, and I just completely zoned out and missed it. Because I noticed it in the second game. I'm like, oh, wow, why didn't the first game have this? So I guess, yeah, well, I was not paying attention to that.
I will say in my notes, I have that NFL Blitz 2000 has the best opening cutscene. So there you go.
Oh, okay. So for anyone who's never played this, it's pretty much if you take Madden, a normal football game, and then you eliminate some of the rules, you get this game. Pretty much the rules that you eliminate is passing interference. You can just tackle people randomly and take them all out. Or what's the other one? Hitting people after the play, and you can just have fun and tackle everyone.
Literally like one of my favorite things to do in a game. Just like as soon as the play's over, every time just attacking someone immediately.
Yeah. Or they stand up and you just punch them over or tackle them again so they fall back down.
And everything the announcer says when you do it too is just so good.
Yeah, that can't be legal.
The announcer was definitely annoying because, you know, it's an older game, so you can hear where the lines are stitched together and like he repeats a lot of the same stuff, but like I still loved it.
Yeah, it was there's comments I want to make for the second game, but when we get to that we'll talk about that one.
Okay.
So just like with any other game, you have to just pick your play, and whenever you're going against a computer, it's more or less hoping you pick the right one for defense, and for offense, just making sure you have to really understand the routes that they're going to run if you're on offense.
Yes, but I kind of would just pick random plays and then just go for it most of the time.
Okay. There's a few, like I always did like the bomb.
Me too.
That was like that one. And then if I was going for an extra point after scoring, I'd always do crisscross because that seemed to always work.
Yeah, I would always just kind of randomly pick through it and like that one looks good and then just do it. I don't know. I didn't really think it mattered too much. I mean, at the end of the day, most of the time, as long as there's not like two people on them, they'll just catch it.
Yeah, that is true. One thing I always did when it came to defense time is I would always hold back from the front and I just watch the open field and see who might be open. And I just charge them down and tackle them so that they're not an option to pass to anymore.
For some reason, I just forgot that you can do that this whole time I was playing. Like, I knew you could do it. I just didn't do it. So what I would do is, I think I learned this when I was playing 2000. There's a defensive play called safe cover.
Yes.
I just did it every single time, no matter what.
So did I.
And it always works. I would get so many sacks.
Yep. You get full coverage of every single person on the field. And more or less, yeah, with that, I was just able to stand still, not have to do much. And I could just watch and scout out everything. And more times than not, when you use safe cover, it forces the quarterback to have to run. So then I just sweep right in and take him out before he can actually make it anywhere.
Yeah, when I was playing the first one, I really tried to like, think about it and like, oh, I'm going to blitz this time or I'm going to use this specific kind of play or whatever. And I just found that like most of the time blitzing doesn't matter. They just pretty much will throw the pass really fast and then they score or they get a bunch of yards.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just using the same play over and over again didn't matter because it worked every time.
Exactly. The one thing also is, unlike other football games, there's more or less an invisible wall on the line right before the snap. So you can bring your person up to the line and just hold the running button and he's running in place. And then once the snap happens, the wall is released and you can actually run right in instantly.
Yeah, and I also loved, I don't think this is in the first one, but if you would get a couple sacks in a row, you would have the fire at the bottom.
Yeah. So a big part of this game too is you have a turbo button. When you're running, I don't know, it always felt like it wasn't too much faster. It's just like a smidge faster than everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I, like, for example, would get a pass and then be out running everybody, I'm holding down the turbo, but they still all catch up to me.
Yep.
So I just like, I don't know that it makes a huge difference. But what I do know is if you are holding turbo while you're tackling, they can more easily dodge you.
Oh.
You ever run into this?
That would explain a lot of why they kept dodging me.
Yeah, I don't know like when I figured it out, but at some point I was like, there's got to be something going on here because like this guy just dodged or, pushed off like 4 dudes in a row. Like there has to be something I'm doing wrong, right? So then I try it without the turbo because like anybody, I'm just holding down turbo almost the entire time I'm playing.
Yep.
So then I tried it and it like worked way better. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I was just an idiot this whole time.
Well, I never figured that out. So, I mean, I was also questioning that same exact thing of how are these people able to break through every single tackle? But for me, it's almost like just a wind gust and my guy falls over and I get tackled.
Yeah, I think that's a way of just like a checks and balances type of thing where like, yeah, you can move faster, but your tackles are worse. So you have to choose how to take on the scenario, which I do like that.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's so you can't just hold turbo the whole time like we did. Because then you have to, get punished for it.
Yeah, and then does it affect whenever you're doing like the stiff arm or the spin? Like, do you need turbo to spin?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Which one thing I completely forgot about in this game was jumping. I think it wasn't until 2000 where I just was like, oh yeah, you can actually jump in when you have the ball. And it comes in so much use when you're running away from people.
So I used it a lot more towards the end, but in the beginning, I got a few times because if they hit you when you're jumping or if they hit you when you're like spinning, or because then if you hold down the button, you can kind of try and shove them off of you as you're running.
Right.
If they get a really good hit on you, then you just fumble immediately. And that happened to me a few times. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm not doing it.
Yep. So how many games, because you played roughly maybe 4 or 5 games, how many did you win on this one?
Honestly, overall, I won way more than I lost. Like when I first started, I lost a couple, but I would say it's not even close. Like I won way more than I lost.
Wow. So I lost way more than I won. Out of all the games I played on this one, I only won once. And the reason behind it is, I don't know if you've noticed this, but this is going to be a very big theme for the rest of the episode for me. The fourth season, or the fourth quarter, with 30 seconds left in the game is when it was just interceptions galore, fumbles galore on my end. It was like every single time on the fourth quarter with 30 seconds left, my team didn't know how to hold the ball anymore or throw the ball. And I would lose every single time because of that.
You know, I didn't think about it, but I'm pretty sure you're right. I wonder if there's something that just amps it up towards the end to make it more intense or something.
It has to. It was so frustrating whenever I'm winning and I'm just like, oh, I just got to run out the clock. Oh, there's an interception. Oh, my guy got tackled. Now he loses the ball and it gets picked up. It was so frustrating.
Well, on that topic, did you notice there was way more fumbles and interceptions as the games went on in general?
Yeah. Yeah, I always felt like the first quarter was always a breeze. I would get a score.
No. I'm talking about like from NFL Blitz to NFL Blitz 2000 to 2001. I felt like as we went game to game, I was just throwing so many more interceptions and so many more fumbles.
Yep. That was something I was going to wait until we got to that. But yes, I fully agree with you on that.
Because I was like, I'm not that bad at this. Like, I just won a bunch of games. Like, what's going on here? But I think maybe they wanted to make it a little harder. Because I kept this on normal, by the way. I didn't change it to easy.
Oh, okay. Weird. I did have it on easy and I was getting destroyed every single time. And just like you, I'm like, I'm not terrible at this. I know what I'm doing. It's just like, it feels like in the first quarter, I can destroy them. And then second quarter, like every preceding quarter after the first one, it's getting harder and harder. And then the fourth one is when you just lose control of everything.
I don't know. I just do that thing where I question myself and I'm like, for example, like I just said how as the games go on, it feels like there's more turnovers. But I just think, was that all in my head? Was I just getting burnt out in the game and I was just playing to play because I had to play for the episode and I was getting careless and throwing interceptions? That was what was going through my mind the whole time of like, is this different or am I just not caring as much anymore because I'm not having as much fun as I did in the beginning?
Maybe. I mean, I put in so much effort and like I was focusing, trying to keep tabs on where my people are and who's being covered. It felt like no matter what I did, it was always getting intercepted or fumbled.
Yeah, I'd never really like lost because of it though. Probably a couple times, but I don't know. It didn't stick out to me like it sounds like it stuck out to you. So
yeah, it will get worse as we go on. A big complaint too of mine is the passing system. So the way it works is as you're making the play, different players will be highlighted. And whoever's highlighted, when you hit the pass button, it gets tossed to them. There were so many times when I had a guy open and I went to hit the pass button. Right as I hit the pass button, someone else highlighted up. And I tossed it to a guy who was covered by 4 people. And I was like, but that wasn't my intention. I wanted to go to this one guy and you changed on me last second because of it.
Well, you select which person you're throwing to with the D-pad.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So you like, if you want to throw all the way to the left receiver, you hold left on the D-pad when you're throwing, and that'll select that guy. And then right, and I don't know about the guy in the middle, but I know that by going to one or the other side, you can select a different person to throw to.
Huh. I didn't know that.
But I will just say, the passing is also my biggest complaint in this game. And that's because that system still doesn't fucking work.
Oh, okay.
It should be a specific button for each person because there's so many times where I'm in a hectic situation. I'm about to get sacked. I'm trying to throw to the one guy that's open and I'm like hitting the button and it's swapping and it's being weird. And like, I just can't get it exactly where I want, even if the guy is wide open.
Yep.
So it should have straight up just been like square, triangle, circle, this guy, this guy, this guy, or whatever they want to do. Like that's what it should have been. And I don't know why they kept this weird system this whole time because I'm just not a fan.
So that is a system in the next game. I don't know if you found that.
Don't you like hold down a button and it shows them or something?
Yeah. So I wanted to go back into this one to see if I just completely missed it. I don't think I did because I'm pretty sure all of your triggers and your bumpers are all turbo. So it doesn't matter. But it definitely was maybe they realized in this one that this system isn't going to work 100%. So that's why in the next game, they did actually add your triangle, circle, square buttons for passing.
So I noticed it in 2001, actually, because we'll get to this later, but the mini games that you play in the game, there's one where it specifically does that and it shows you that happens.
Oh, okay.
So I should have figured it out sooner, but I don't think I realized that it was there. Because like there's tutorials in this game, but they really only just show you the things that you already know.
Yeah. And it's weird too, because I saw you messing around with it on the stream that we're watching for you, but they have options in here to turn off the tip menu. And then when you start every single arcade game or the season game, you get tips anyways.
Yeah.
I turned this off. Why are you still giving this to me?
Yeah. I did that almost immediately after I played like one game and then still there, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I found to be the most reliable thing to do in the first one was QB sneaks.
Oh, okay. Which one was that?
It's not a play. Like I would just like pick a pass and then just start running as the QB once they were all on one side.
Yeah, I would do that when it was very close to the goal line. And if I just saw an opening, I'd take the run and do it.
I just somehow noticed like towards the end of my time with the first one that it worked almost every time.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
So like I was just repeatedly doing it over and over again and it just kept working. So I'm like, why would I stop doing this? I found it. I found the way to win.
And good point with that, because whenever I was a kid playing this all the time, I specifically remember there was like a combination like you're talking about. There was a play that you picked and something you did that scored every single time. And like I would get massive amounts of points per game every game. I couldn't remember what it was. I'm like, I know there's a trick to this and I can't remember and it is annoying me.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really find any play or anything that would work reliably. I mean, like I said, I just kind of picked randomly anyway, but still, it just, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like there's a strategy in this game necessarily. It's just kind of like meant to be just nonsense, you know?
True. And it's kind of funny because the whole slogan for NFL Blitz is like, what is it? No rules, no mercy, no something.
Yeah, I forget what it is. Yeah.
There's still rules. And there's like, you just took out like 2 rules, maybe. That's it. The rest of the rules still apply.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly just like a weirdly more intense version of football. Like, I don't know. I don't really think like someone who plays Madden would feel right at home playing this because it's not that different. And I even feel like vice versa. Like you could play this, then go play Madden. It's not that different.
No.
Like, yeah, you can't hit people after the play. Okay.
I think I would actually be screwed if we went to Madden after this because I would immediately just want to start tackling everyone and just constantly get flags thrown on me.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of fun just after every play spamming that. And we already talked about it, but you'll see in all my footage, it's just nonstop, especially when it does the zoom out at the end of a quarter, at the end of the half. I'm just like, boom, 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 over and over again. I don't know why. It's just so satisfying, especially hearing the announcer. I just kept doing it. I think that's a lot of the draw with this game is just those silly moments. Like, you know, like you're saying, the pass interference, like the random moments of shit talking that seemingly happens for no reason.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I don't know what triggers that, but it just happens sometimes. And it's kind of funny until you hear the same ones over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a strategy on which team you picked?
The one with the best stats.
Yep. I did the same thing.
I didn't think too much about it. I just kind of scrolled through and I saw one that the bars were mostly all the way up. So I'm like, all right, that's my one.
There's some teams where it's like most of the bars are just completely empty except for maybe one thing. Like, who's picking this team?
Yeah, I mean, if you live in that city, I guess you're stoked, but I wouldn't pick them.
The one thing I do miss, especially when playing Blitz the League, which that video is up on our YouTube channel if anyone wants to watch that one, is that with that game, you have the chance to hurt someone. And I really wish that these original games had that too, with being able to do these late hits, these big hits, having that possible risk of actually injuring someone in the process.
While that's a good idea in theory, can you imagine playing this with a friend, right? And we're both going to be doing the late hits nonstop every single time. And then your player gets injured. Like, I would just quit.
I forgot about the playing with your friend thing.
Because like if you're playing against the computer, like who gives a shit? But like if me and you were playing against each other and you injured half my team by doing late hits, I would literally just quit.
Injuring half your team after the first play of the game.
Well, because what makes it cool in Blitz is like they have that whole thing where it's the Mortal Kombat X-ray of the injury, and then you can just inject them with fucking steroids, and then they're back on the field.
Yep.
So like it really doesn't matter. It's just a cool little extra thing that you can do where you go, ooh, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's just a nice little touch, which I'm glad they do later on. But as fun as it is to hit people and stuff, it'd be nice to see something more to it.
I hear you. I just don't know what that would be. And I think this being a straight up arcade port, like there's not going to be that much going on. Like I was honestly surprised there was even like a season mode, even though it's like super bare bones and there's nothing to it. At least there's some sort of structured mode for you to play.
Yeah, it's just playing arcade mode over and over again, pretty much. Except you don't pick who your next opponent is. It just does that for you automatically.
Yeah, but it just gives you that structure. You know what I mean? It gives you something to work towards. At least it's not literally just playing a random match all the time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's almost like, oh, this is what we see on the TV. So this is what we're playing now in the game.
Because like in a season in Madden, like there's so much more to it. Like there's trading, there's all that stuff. You have to deal with injuries. You have to deal with all kinds of stuff. So like this is literally just like, here's a structured mode for you to play by yourself. But I feel like where this game probably shines the most is when you're playing with another person, which we haven't done. But
it would have been cool if we played this together, just opposing teams, or on the same team. That'd be really cool.
Well, there's a way for us to do it. I just keep forgetting to bring it up because like it's going to require us scheduling a time and like making it work. So
yeah, it might be something in the future, but with the amount of time and effort, it's not going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, what I would imagine we'd probably do is just play like right before we record, but we'd still do the bulk of our gameplay by ourselves. So maybe the next time there is a multiplayer game, we can keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really have that many more notes on this.
I don't either.
I thought the music was really good, like the weird like electronic music that plays sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention to the music all that much. I think I was just so hyper focused on the gameplay that I tuned it out.
I'm mostly talking about like at halftime and like at the end of the game and stuff like those little the little transitional moments. That's the stuff I'm talking about. It was very catchy.
Yeah. It didn't really like jump out at me where I'm like, ooh, but it was good for what it is in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go listen to it, but like the game didn't need it and it still has it. You know?
Exactly.
The only other note that I have, pretty much all these notes we're talking about apply to all the games, but the field goal system is pretty annoying. It's like kind of hard because it's so fast.
It's very fast. And I don't know if you've encountered this at all, but there was times when I did a field goal and it seemingly bounced off of the pole and didn't make it. And it's like, oh, it's good. I'm like, but graphically, I saw it not go through how it was supposed to.
I did have it where I waited too long and it automatically did it and I failed.
I had that too. Yep. But then the alternative where like it looks like it's going in and then it doesn't make it in for some reason. I'm like, I don't know how you're getting this data to tell if it's passing through or not, but visually does not match up to what's happening.
So I discovered something actually by mistake. And before we get to that, I have to bring this up, and that's the cheat system that happens before every match.
Yes.
So whenever I played this game in the arcade, and I've played this before at some point, I think, like you're just hitting random buttons because I don't know what the cheats are.
Exactly.
But one time it landed on show field goal percentage.
What does that like for whenever you're about to make it, like before you're about to kick?
So I'm pretty sure it didn't work because in season mode, it disables all the cheats.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure like you have a set percentage based on how far away you are. And then if you nail that, it then takes that percentage into account. So like if you do a field goal from super far away and you get it perfectly, there's still a decent chance you're not going to get it because you're so far away.
Which makes sense.
But maybe if you're like right there and you don't do so good, you might still make it because you're just right there.
Interesting. And for anyone who doesn't know, whenever you're loading into the game and they show the two teams, there's 3 boxes underneath your helmet. And those 3 boxes have different symbols that you can go to. And there's a specific combinations of the symbols that you have to do, and that activates specific cheats. So you can't do like multiple cheats at one time. You can only choose. I remember as a kid having a whole list of like, this is what each symbol does to give me specific cheats.
Yeah, I was going to experiment more with it, but then I'm like, I'm playing season mode, so like whatever, like I can't use them anyway, so what's the point? But if you're playing with your friend and you're both just like putting in, I'm pretty sure there's like a big head mode. There's all that kind of funny stuff in it.
Yeah.
That's where you would mess with that. I don't think there's really any reason to do it by yourself other than to mess around for a few minutes.
Yeah, as far as I remember, I can't recall it being like game-breaking cheats. It's just little fun stuff like you talked about.
So before we move on to the next one, we didn't really talk about the graphics. I think they're decent. They're not bad. They're not good. Like, I think they're just fine.
Yeah, for what it is and the era that this came out, I don't think it's bad at all.
No, I just mean like I'm not like blown away by it, but it looks good.
No, yeah, it's not breathtaking at all. I do like how they made the most out of what they had, and for how fast paced it is. Like nothing really breaks or anything, which is good.
I just wanted to make sure we brought that up because as we go to the next two, the graphics are clearly very much improved.
Really, I was gonna say I almost didn't like the second one as much as this one.
Graphically?
Well, graphically in the sense of like the menus. I think the menus look worse.
Absolutely. I agree with that. But I'm talking about just the graphics of in the game.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like seeing them side by side, I could give you a better answer to that. But I feel like whenever I was playing it, it almost felt. We're watching it now. Okay, maybe it's a little bit better, a little bit more crisp, but it doesn't change it that much.
So the big one for me was when it first started. All of the stadiums have unique looks to them. It all has more of a realistic look, like it's trying to emulate the real one. So that it's like more vibrant. It's a little sharper. I think that is what I'm talking about. But the UI, I don't think is better. And I think just to get it out right now, 2001 has the worst UI of them all.
I'm now trying to remember what 2001 looks like because like this one in 2000 stuck out to me the most. It's just the way it's like they're trying like, oh, we have 3D, we can make this look futuristic and stuff, and it doesn't look good. The sound effects are way more annoying in this when you're going through the menus.
Oh yeah, they're like loud as fuck for no reason.
First thing I did going into this one, I went to the options and turned the sound effects all the way down because I didn't want to hear them because it was just these obnoxious like booms and like clicks and stuff.
I don't blame you. It is pretty annoying. I just think when you're in a game, all the random noise and it sounds like explosions of people getting hit. Like I just love it.
Oh, then I missed out on that part of the game.
Just how obnoxious it is every time someone gets hit and like all the yelling and just all that stuff. I love it so much.
So the first thing I noticed in this, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but when you're doing a punt return, the defenders are like laser focused on you in this game.
You mean like whenever you catch the punt, they're like right there?
Not even just like right there. Even whenever it's like the halftime punt to you or at the beginning of the game punt to you. I've noticed whenever I'm running is like I try to turn and every single player is locked on and turning like a herd of buffalo chasing me down. And it's not something that I noticed in the first game where it felt more natural with how the players went about protecting you or coming at you. This one felt like my defense had no opportunity to do anything, and I could barely make any yardage because of it.
The kickoff returns, I didn't really notice it as much, but with the punt returns, I felt like immediately as soon as I got the ball, they just knocked me over immediately.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I got this, now I can run. Nope, I'm tackled, and I'm right on the goal line.
Well, in real life, and in Madden, you can call like I forget, like it's like they wave their hand and then that means that they stop wherever they catch the ball, but no one's allowed to hit them. So like most of the time they do that because they don't want to just get destroyed. I feel like this game should almost just do that because you can't do anything anyway.
True. And I don't know if they fixed it in this one, but you can't run out of bounds either when you do a punt return, right?
I don't know. I never tried.
I feel like it was in the first one where if you're trying to run back, you can't run out of bounds until you get tackled. But with the normal gameplay, you can run out of bounds. It's just, for some reason, the punt returns, you can't go out, and I don't get why.
I don't know. Yeah.
So, I mean, just like with the first game, in this one, I turned off the game tips, still got them, and I feel like they're even worse in this one.
Yeah. I mean, to even go farther, I think every single thing about the first game is still here. It's like the same game. Like, at least with Madden, there's a new vibe each time. There's like a new thing going on. There's like whether it's a new UI or like just a new color scheme, anything. This game is literally same music, same sound effects. Nothing is different.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised by that.
It's just a copy paste. It feels like they mess with the engine, the game engine. And you brought this up earlier. Interceptions galore every single game. Is like I could never even play the game because the other team had the ball more than I did.
I definitely noticed it for sure. I didn't have much more trouble because like I kind of figured out how to play these games by this point. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of had my tricks lined up to just win every time. So even though there was more interceptions and fumbles, it didn't really bother me, but I can definitely understand where you're coming from.
And it's weird too because, okay, you picked Atlanta. I feel like I also did pick Atlanta too. And my defense could not block to save their lives in the lineup. So every single play, I don't know if it was just the matchup against the team I was with, but every single time it'd be like hike, and then I had 3 defenders in my face and they're tackling me. I'm like, where was my team defending? Like, why do I not have any defenders for me?
Well, that might have to do with what play you're picking too, because they're lined up differently depending on what play you pick.
Right. But for it to happen almost every single play and me never to be able to get a pass off, and then when I do get a pass off, it's intercepted. And it's like, I can't even play. There's no point of me even playing this game. I almost gave up after the first game and moved on to 2001 because I was so fed up.
I can't believe how bad of a time you had. I can't relate really at all. Like, I genuinely didn't really feel that big of a difference. Like I said, it felt more like chaotic, I guess, with like all the interceptions and fumbles and stuff. But I think for the most part, it just kind of felt like the same game again.
Kinda. I can kind of agree with that. But at the same time, for me, it felt almost worse to play. And I can't tell you why, but there was something about this game that didn't feel as smooth as the first one. And I wish I could tell you what it was.
We'll get into it more in a minute, but I felt that with 2001, not with 2000.
Oh, interesting. Well, I can't wait to hear about that then.
I mean, I don't really have much more to say than what you just said. It just feels like something's wrong or off, or just like something is different that I can't account for because I don't know what it is.
Right. The only other thing that they really add is you can do a play editor in this game. Did you mess with that at all?
I went into it for a minute, but it is so intense.
There's a lot of menus, a lot of options. I made a play. I never used it, but I made one just to see how it worked. And it's interesting, to say the least. But
if you really care about that sort of thing, you could have a field day with it because there is just so many options for you to mess with. But like, I went in and I had the intention of making a play and I just started messing with it and saw how much there was. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't need to do this.
I'm just imagining, like, how much easier would the game be if you had this whole custom playbook of all the plays you've made? Like, could you make a play that just scores every time? I wonder if that's possible.
We also never mentioned that I'm pretty sure almost every team has the same playbook.
They don't, from my experience.
I thought it was like mostly the same and there was a few different plays.
Yeah. They changed it up, but I really wish I could tell you who I played as. I know Atlanta for sure on 2000, but there's other teams where they just had a weird combination of plays for passing plays and a lot more running plays than anything. And I noticed, at least in the first game, when you're on defense, all the plays are the same across each team. But then in this game, they change up per each team of the defensive plays as well. Like the main ones are there, but not all of them.
That's kind of what I was getting at too. It's like, it seems like it's mostly the same, but there's a few different things for each team.
Yeah.
But like, I could always find like, you know, the reliable ones on every team. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm screwed because I don't have this play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel like you kind of get your rotation of the plays you know work, so you just keep doing them over and over again, you know?
Oh yeah, I never used every single play. I had maybe 5 or 6 that I just always went to.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the way these games are. I think that would switch up if you're playing with another person because they would account for that, but there's not really that much to think about when you're playing against the computer. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The only other difference too is they took out the options menu out of the main menu in this game. So it's like when you went into arcade mode, it's not until after you select the mode that each mode has its own separate options you can choose from. And still the same problem. Easy mode, you still get wiped most of the time. Tips are always on. Oh, and the one thing I forgot with the tips, I think it was this game where the tip box came up and then it just went through the dialogue so fast that I didn't even get to finish reading the first box. And I'm already on the second box of tips. And I'm like, okay, well, what did the first box say?
I didn't even read the tips really. I kind of just saw what it was and then skipped through it immediately. So, but
yeah,
that is annoying.
And then it wasn't until the third game of the season where I accidentally hit the L2 button and then the letters came up underneath the players. I was like, where was this the entire time? This would actually make my life so much easier. And it did help a little bit, but not that much.
Well, this game also adds audibles before the play, so you can kind of change things around if you hold down R2.
Yeah, that threw me off when I accidentally did that as well. And like people are jumping on the screen to like different positions.
I literally maybe did it once or twice just to kind of see, but for the most part, you don't need to. Like, and again, I think that's something you would use when you're playing with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And one nice touch they do with these two that we didn't really touch on, even with the first game, is if you're playing with a friend, they have an option where you can hide your cursor of the play you're selecting. If you tap up twice in the play select, and then your cursor goes invisible. So when you're playing on the same screen with your friend, they can't read and choose appropriately for the defense.
I love that.
It's very nice. But the downside is you have to remember where you are on the screen so you don't select the wrong play.
Yeah, I would imagine you'd probably just stay at the top and then make it disappear, then go to where you need to go, you know?
And I think it makes a very specific sound when you hit a wall on the menus. So it kind of like tells you, oh, you're at the end and you have to either go down or to the other direction. It's nice that they had that forethought about this.
This game also adds 4-player multiplayer, and I don't really know how that works.
Could you imagine? That would just be mayhem.
It sounds kind of fun, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, absolutely. But just like, it would just be nonstop tackling and just everyone on this. You could never get a passing play done. Everyone would be on the ground.
I love it. I love the just insane chaos of these games.
And I think going forward to the rest of this, I feel like that's the overarching theme to this is these are better games to play with friends, not by yourself.
Yeah, I would say this is like, I mean, it is an arcade game, but it leans almost into like a party game in a way.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and hop into this last one. I mean, what more are we going to say? It's just the same game again, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's weird because they bring back the options menu in the main menu on the third one. Don't know why for that one game that they decided to take it off, but they're like, oh yeah, we'll bring it back on this one now.
I don't know the logic for half the shit they do, dude.
I know.
The graphics are mostly the same, but there seems to be like a different color palette on it or something.
I thought it was just me whenever I was playing, but I'm glad you picked up on it too, that something feels a little bit off, but not that much where it's distracting.
I think they just go for more of a realistic look. So like this looks more like Madden would look at this time, as opposed to like the bright colorfulness of the other games.
Yep. Yeah, not too much more has changed. They have mini games now in this one.
Yeah, I tried them all, but then I was kind of just like, whatever. Like they're fun for like a minute.
It's fun to try once, and then that's it. You'll never go back to it again.
Like maybe if you're playing with your friends and you're bored of playing the game, you can take turns playing that and seeing how long you can go. Because like there's one where you're at first and goal and you have to score, and then you keep moving back each time. Then there's the opposite of that where you're playing as the defense and they keep coming closer each time. And the last one where I discovered the whole buttons passing thing, you're a QB and you have to pass the ball to certain certain players in order.
Yes.
They're not characters. These are people.
Yes. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. But it goes back to what we were talking about where they're pretty much just making the same game. But I feel like the play editor in the last game, this game, they bring the play editor back and now they have mini games. I feel like we're seeing a progression where they're trying to do different things, but it's just not enough. Like the core game is still just all the same, and the stuff they do add is so minimal that it doesn't really matter.
I feel like the play editor is a great addition. It's essentially like Tony Hawk 1 to Tony Hawk 2, right? Where you can create a skater in a park now.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. But what this game adds is not a big deal. It doesn't justify its need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get at this time, they couldn't really add like rosters to a game. Like now, even though they still fucking do it, they could literally just be like, this is the final Madden game. Here's the new roster and the new update every year. But instead they make you buy another game.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing changes, just the people who want the teams. But that's the same with the FIFA, NHL. They're all just pumping out the same games over and over again.
And that's where I struggled with this a little bit, where like, is that a knock against this because it does that? Like, yeah, everybody does it, but just because everybody does it doesn't mean it doesn't fucking suck and is like scummy behavior.
I don't know. It's weird because it's one of those things of the first NFL comes out, or NFL Blitz. That's already the most you can do with a game like that. What more could you possibly do to change up the gameplay? Do you take out more rules to now make it more chaotic? But then at that point, is it more playable if you do that? So I think they find the correct balance on the first game, but now they don't know how to innovate off of that because there's really not much more you can do.
Well, what more they can do is blitz the league.
True.
Could you imagine if they made blitz the league with the NFL license? I doubt the NFL would let that happen, but that shit would be insane.
That is very, very true.
But like that has a full story mode with cutscenes and decisions, and like that's to me the farthest you can absolutely take this. And they did do it, but it took them another 5 years after this.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to at its core, it's just a football game, and that's all they really thought about. Like you would never really have a story mode in a football game, so why would anyone think about it?
Yeah, but I've played season modes in other games before. Like, there's just nothing to this. And what I wanted to bring up is, did you play the season mode in this game?
Yes.
Did you see how fucked up and weird it is?
How so? Oh, yeah. So that was a huge negative for me was when you go to select your team, it no longer gives you stats for your team that you choose.
Not even that. That's not even what I'm talking about. So it has you pick a bunch of teams.
Oh, is that what that was for? I only chose one.
Maybe I fucked up then.
So like it gives you like an opportunity to pick 5 different teams. I only chose one, and I was just like, I don't know what the stats are on these because you don't give me that anymore. And I kind of just went through that. So what is it if you pick all 5?
So yeah, this is my bad. Never mind. I made a mistake. So what I accidentally did was I was playing as all those teams.
Oh, wow. So that's just a very long season.
So I had to play every game each one of those teams plays every week.
Oh, no. I mean, that's cool that you could do that if you wanted, I guess.
I think that would be a way to like play the season mode with your friends. Like you each pick a team, you know what I mean? And then you like essentially have a multiplayer version of this traditionally single player mode.
Yeah.
But what I thought was happening was it was making me pick all the teams in the league. And then I played as one. And saying this out loud now, I realize how stupid I am and how dumb that sounds. So I don't even know why I thought that, but the way it was presented to me was just so weird. I didn't really know what I was doing.
To be fair, I wasn't too sure of what was happening. So I just went with one team just to play it safe because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be picking.
Well, it has the option to pick more teams. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing here? You know, but I don't know. Whatever.
Now, gameplay wise, I wrote down that it kind of feels like a combination of the first game and 2000, where to me, it felt like this one was a bit easier to play. You still had some of the annoyances from 2000, but it still brought back the better gameplay from the first one.
Yeah, and I kind of had a different experience. I didn't really notice the weirdness that you were talking about until this game.
Weird.
Where I just felt like something was off. But like I was saying before, I don't know if that was just because I had played these games for 3 hours at this point. So like, I'm just kind of sick of it.
Yeah. By the end of all this, I was tired of playing these games. And even through this one, through all the games we've talked about so far, the fourth quarter, 30 seconds left in the game, problems persist. And it just amplifies even more with these last 2 games because I forget what it was, either 2000 or 2001. I think I've had possession of the ball for 5 seconds the entire game because it was just nonstop interceptions.
That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't have anything like that.
I couldn't tell you how angry I was getting. It's just some of my footage, which you're probably going to be seeing now towards the end when it's like fourth quarter and 30 seconds left. You see my character just standing still because I'm just typing away at my notes and I'm just letting the game go. I'm like, I give up. I can't come back from this. I'm done.
Another thing we didn't bring up actually was the game moves so incredibly fast in a good way. Like it's very snappy and it keeps going. So I never had time to write notes unless I paused it, you know?
Oh, I had to wait until an entire game was done before I could go back and play or type up my notes.
I would just pause it because I had to do it right then and there so I didn't forget.
Okay.
I think that's a definite positive with this. It's like it all moves so quickly. Like there's a tiny bit of loading between things, but it's not very long. And I just feel like the game just keeps going and going and going in a good way.
Yeah. And except for when you get to the saving, then I don't know if you saved it all, but saving takes ages to get through. I don't know why.
That seems to be a common thing with some of these games. Like for some reason, it just takes forever.
But then you have other games where you think it should take forever and it's just very quick and just a few seconds and that's it.
I just have no idea what would cause that. Like, what is the reason why loading and saving would take longer in one game than another? I really don't know.
Yeah, I know. We're not developers, so it's not like we could actually have a logical explanation behind this.
I mean, it's supposedly reading off of a physical memory card, but like when you're playing on an emulator, that shouldn't matter. So why is it still taking a long time? I don't know. So it's something within the actual game that's making it take this long, regardless of where it's getting the information from. So at the end of the day, I have no idea. But yeah, we've gone on for a really long time talking about this. I just looked at the timer and I was like, okay.
It was quite a bit. I wasn't expecting us to go this far into a football game.
Yeah, I mean, we did the same thing we always do. Talk for too long about stuff that doesn't matter.
That's the show.
I mean, isn't that just podcasts in general?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get into some reviews and then we can kind of figure out what our scores are.
I forgot we haven't even gotten to reviews yet.
I know. I'm very conflicted on my score, so maybe these will help. I don't know. So the series began with really good scores, actually. And, the first one was very new and exciting for the time. And just kind of like how we felt, reviewers, for the most part, also kind of felt that over time, they got worse and worse. Now, I, handpicked some reviews here to specifically show this, but there were plenty of places that still gave all three games high scores. It's the same thing with Madden now, Call of Duty, all of it, where like they're all getting 8 out of 10s. But I just think personally, if a game's going to come out again and not have much change, it should be punished for it, not rewarded. But a lot of people don't feel that way, I guess.
Hey, there's a market clearly because they still sell.
Hey, as long as the money's coming in, whatever, I guess.
Exactly.
So we'll start with the first one. I pulled one review for each. I'm not reading 6 reviews. So Next Generation gave the first game a 4 out of 5. And they said, the only real knock we have on Blitz is that, like the arcade version, the lack of play variety can get stale after a while, especially in single player mode. Despite that one problem, Blitz offers the most intense game of football you're likely to find at home and makes a worthy purchase.
Which I agree with. And I think they nail when they talk about, especially in single player mode. We talked about that. I feel like it's fun in single player mode for a little bit, but at the end of the day, you just want to play with a friend, and that's where the fun comes in.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really say it, but like realistically, like on my own, I could see myself maybe completing a season or two of one of these games, and that would be the extent of me playing it by myself.
True. I think me owning the first one, I have almost no memories of me playing this by myself. It was specifically, hey, a friend's coming over, we're busting out NFL Blitz.
Yeah, I mean, that's mostly how I played Madden as a kid as well. But I'm just trying to think of myself now. Like, if I had this game, how much would I play it by myself? And I think, 2 or 3 hours at the most is probably where I would be.
It's hard enough going an hour in. I would really have to force to put 2 more hours into one of these games.
There's just not enough progression. Or we also didn't talk about how there's no stats or anything in season mode. And in some of the later ones, they add more like information, but you can't do anything with the information. It's just there to look at.
Yeah, exactly.
If they just added a little bit of a sim element to it, just a little bit of something to latch onto when you're playing by yourself, I think we might be talking about this very differently, but there's just nothing.
To make the game matter. It's the same thing of what we talked about with Driver, how you're just doing something for no reason. Same with this. You're just playing the games, but there's nothing to come out of it at the end of each game.
You're not working towards anything.
Exactly.
So Game Informer gave NFL Blitz 2000 a 6.5 out of 10. And they said, Blitz 2000 isn't really a new game, just a deluxe version of the last one. However, the new modes are cool, and the awesome 4-player mode makes it a necessity for Blitz fanatics.
So in this, what new modes are they talking about?
I think they're talking about like the play editor.
Oh, okay. As I say, did we miss an entire game modes about this?
That's got to be what they're referring to. That's the only new thing in that game.
That is true. But yeah, nailed it on the head. It isn't a new game, just a very, very, very slightly upgraded one.
If you want to play with 4 people, you have to get it. And that's really the only way I would even say you need to get it.
Yeah. And I mean, I could argue that even with the very minute upgrade, there was still downgrades with the game engine, at least from my experience. You didn't experience it, but at the end of the day, I didn't think it was a better game at all. I would still go back to the first one.
I mean, regardless of if it's worse or not, it's at the very best the same. So
yeah, exactly.
So finally, All Game gave NFL Blitz 2001 3 out of 5 stars. And they said, There are really only two classes of people who NFL Blitz 2001 can be recommended to, despite the enjoyment that can be squeezed out of the game. Those who love Blitz and cannot get enough of it at all, and those who enjoy Blitz on some level and just haven't picked up a previous copy. For everyone else, this is just a minor upgrade.
I think that's the best way to put it. Just, there's no reason to waste your money on this if you don't need to. If you've never played a Blitz game and you wanted to, then there's your opportunity to buy it. But aside from that, you're not buying much.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way a lot of these year after year series work. It's like, if you've never played one, then yeah, just get the newest one and you'll have a good time. But if you've played the other ones, then why are you going to spend $60, $70 to get another one?
Yeah, the person who just has a collection of every single Blitz game is like, yeah, I can go back and play 2005 if I wanted to. Why?
No one does that. That doesn't happen, period. So here comes the weird part. I've been kind of thinking about this even through this episode because I really didn't know where I stand. And so we're giving a score for all three combined.
Yes.
I didn't write down scores for each game individually. I was kind of just taking it all into account and giving one cumulative score.
That's fair.
And I do think the game series as a whole needs knocked for releasing bullshit sequels that don't need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And going forward, that's really how I feel. I mean, any sports game, why do you do this? Like, you're just making money and exploiting people buying every new copy. Like, don't be a piece of shit, Make a better game. Make a game that justifies its existence. If I was just rating NFL Blitz the first one, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Because it is so fun. I had a really genuinely good time. I played it longer than I had to. Like, my plan originally was to play like maybe an hour the first one, then a half an hour of the other ones to kind of just see what was different. And I ended up playing the first one for over an hour. And I stopped just because I ran out of time that day for playing games, not because I wanted to stop.
Oh.
Like, I genuinely had fun. But as time went on, I just got sick of it. And I mean, that also probably would have happened if I was just playing the first one, because there's only so much fun you can get out of this playing by yourself. But it's also hard because you have to take into account we didn't play with another person, which is probably half the fun of this game.
Yep.
So I think for the series as a whole on the PS1, I'm going to go with a 7.
Okay. That's a little bit higher than I thought you were going to go. I can agree with you on all of your points. I think the general idea is very fun. For me, the gameplay became very stale. And just to repeat myself, as a kid, I only played this when friends came over. And there's a reason behind that. Like, playing this by myself back then or now, I would get so bored so fast of just repeating everything over and over again. And the whole fourth quarter thing, I mean, we don't really know how the code works. Maybe there is something to it that it makes the game a little bit harder, but that was just very frustrating. For the first game, if we were just in the first game, I was very close to you. I was giving it about a 7.5. But since we're doing everything together, with 2000 being my lowest scored one, the average I came out to was 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, you're just a little bit higher than me. I mean, a little bit lower than me, but I don't know. I like football games. I think it's just the secret nostalgia that I have for it, even though I don't like football. So that combined with the silliness of this, I think that's what made me like it so much. It's just such a tough thing to put a number to, with the two other games being almost carbon copies of them. It's really weird, and I don't like it.
It's just crazy too how just those two other games just drag it down so much. Like, Blitz would be so high on this list right now, but it's not because of the two sequels.
Yeah, and I just feel like if we did it separately, it would have also been weird, because if we were doing it separately, I would feel compelled to like essentially rate it as if it's the first one you played, because the gameplay is pretty much unchanged. You said you felt some weirdness. I felt some weirdness in one of them, but for the most part, it is unchanged. So like, if we're saying NFL Blitz is an 8, wouldn't by default the next one be an 8 because it's the same game with more?
Yeah, and that's why I kind of like that we did it this way, playing all of them at the same time, because it gives you that apples to apples comparison just immediately. If we gave it some time off and then played the second NFL Blitz, we would forget how the first one felt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a nice opportunity to say, hey, if we do them side by side, then they're not exactly 100% accurate, even though we would have thought so doing them months apart.
That's true.
I like it this way.
No, I think this was the best way we could do it without it becoming weird and annoying, you know?
Yep, and I think it's just going to be the standard with other sports games. I think there might be some exceptions. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there might be ones that we just do one-offs on.
Yeah, I think it's just not even just sports game, any series where the gameplay doesn't really change. It just has to be something that makes sense to review at once and not separate into either episodes or ratings. But so that will put NFL Blitz at a 6.5, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And we have a big tie on this. Diver's Dream, Power Shovel, Jammer Lammy, and Kula World.
So my pitch would be to put it right under Power Shovel.
Interesting. I was going to say to put it right under Jammer Lammy and right above Kula. Only because, I mean, I get it. It's something weird. It's something different from normal football. So I can see the excitement. But if we're going against Power Shovel, which goes full swing into the weird, and then Jammer Lammy, same thing, just full swing into craziness and weirdness.
I remember.
Even though their gameplay is difficult and not very, precise, as like this game has very precise controls. I just like the aesthetic as those games over this one. That's my take.
I honestly don't feel strongly enough about it to argue with you, so we can just go ahead and do that.
Okay. I mean, I do agree. I think this plays better than those games do, and is more welcoming to new players or any player. But I think in this instance, the character takes over than the gameplay.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Our 6.5 area is just the weird games I'm noticing.
Yeah, it's like they take a swing at something and like maybe the gameplay doesn't hold up, but everything else is just so cool and so unique that it forces itself to be raised as from what would be a 4. Or like if Power Shovel wasn't weird and it took itself super seriously, I think that game would be like a 5.
Yeah.
But because it goes to all the places it does, because Jammer Lammy has all the weird, uncomfortable shit that it does, like those games are worth looking at and they're worth being higher on the list.
Exactly. That's the best way to put that. And so yeah, that puts Blitz, all 3 games, at 19, which is a fitting position, I think.
Yeah, I have no qualms with that. So that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.